SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Welcome to today's episode of iGaming Daily. I'm your host, James Ross, and today we're diving into one of the most exciting developments in the global gambling industry, and that's Brazil's imminent launch of a nationwide regulated market. Just months ago, Brazil's government, led by President Lula, took a historic step by signing into law the regulation that will soon govern sports betting and online gaming across the country. As a result, this week we've seen a flood of gambling license applications, with over 113 companies racing to secure their place in what is poised to become one of the largest gambling markets in the world. In this episode, I'm joined by Isadora Marcante, the senior journalist at SBC Noticias Brasil, as we explore why so many companies are eager to stake their claim in Brazil, what challenges lie ahead for regulators and operators, and what they might hold for this rapidly evolving market. Whether you're a seasoned industry insider or just curious about the latest in global gambling trends, there is a lot to unpack here in this episode. But before we do, Isadora, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm okay, James. Thank you. How are you? It's good to be here with you again.
It is good to have you here again.
Thank you.
Before we jump into the topic again, we're talking about Brazil, who are set to be one of the leaders in the iGaming space market-wise. So it's probably right to mention another leader for the gambling sector, and that is Optimove, who are the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. Listeners out there, if you would like to claim your first free month of Optimove, you still can by visiting optimove.com/SBC. I will leave the links per usual in the description below. So let's jump on to the topic today, and it has stemmed from those applications, the 113 or so, that have come through. I believe it was just yesterday, but I believe now is time to kind of set the scene. So to truly understand kind of the significance of Brazil's upcoming gambling market, we need to start by kind of looking at the rapid evolution of its regulatory landscape. And this kind of stemmed just before the new year. Like I mentioned in my introduction, President Lula da Silva, he signed into law Ordinance 14,790. Isa, am I right with that one?
Yeah. We had the bill that was approved by the Congress and then sent to Lula to be turned into law. So we have the law 14790 signed on the 30th of December last year.
Mm-hmm. And this was one of those pivotal moments that kind of set the stage of what soon we think will become one of the world's largest regulated gambling markets.
Yeah, definitely. We were waiting for that for the past 5 years. 2018, 2018. The then President Michel Temer signed the law that legalized sports betting in Brazil, online sports betting. So we had a framework of 4 years to turn into a regulated market. And then we saw that happening last year. So it was like a big victory for everyone in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And once that happened, the Brazilian government, they actually wasted no time in kind of making these swift changes to kind of bring their vision of this market into life. And in just a few months, Brazil, it's managed to put together its first technical framework or its regulatory framework for federal online gambling. It covers everything from kind of self-exclusion to anti-money laundering protocols to even stringent, and I mean, they are stringent advertising rules. So, with all these pieces in place, it's clear that Brazil is on the brink of something huge. But kind of given the rapid pace of the regulatory developments in Brazil, Isa, how do you kind of anticipate, learning from now we know how many applications we've now received, how do you anticipate the market will kind of evolve over the next 5 years?
Well, it's hard to say how it's going to be because we don't have official data. We don't have any official measures or anything yet to be able to see like, okay, we are in this spot right now and we're going to be in this place in the next, 5-10 years. What experts that have been working in the industry for the past 20 years say is that we will see the market growing 5 times. So we have expectations that say, like, there's a source that's the Statista Markets Insights says that the Brazilian market will grow, will be like the revenue worth will be 1.5 billion euros, which is insane. And I mean, it's understandable. It's a big new market. It's a market that everybody was waiting for to be regulated. Like we said before, like for the past 5 years, we were waiting for that. And right now, with everything happening so fast, within a year, let's say, like actually it was less than a year, because the law 14790 was signed last year in December. So in 6 months, the Secretariat of Prices and Bettings of the Minister of Finance could put in place 12 law ordinances that we will see. Actually another one. I was talking to Felipe Rodrigues, that is a lawyer within the sports law, and he mentioned that they just developed, he helped actually to create a new law ordinance on integrity, sports integrity, and sports betting integrity as well. That it was very actually needed, because we had the responsible gambling one, so we needed one talking about integrity as well. So we'll have in total 13 new law ordinances that regulate the market, which is great. So we, me included, that work in the industry, see that over the next 5 years, we will see a very, I believe in the next year, 2025, we'll see a very much like a very rapid growth, like much more companies coming. But I think as the time goes by, we'll see less companies joining and big ones keeping their operations in Brazil as well. So we'll see, I think, like a solid market. I think we'll solidify our industry here.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think if we turn our attention now to kind of the companies that are actually lining up to get a piece of the action in Brazil, like we mentioned, is 113 in total, which is a staggering number, because I actually believe they predicted around 40 or something like that. Yeah. Is that right, Isa?
Yeah, they predicted a very lower number of companies applying.
Yeah, and what's also interesting, because we've both been through the list, is who these companies actually are. And one of those at the top of the list that we see is the Greek-based Kaizen Gaming. You know, they've wasted no time in kind of submitting their application as early as May. And following that, there's other names. There's Betfair, there's Stake, Meridian Gaming. They've thrown their hats into the ring. These are big players within the gambling space, and their early involvement really does signal kind of strong confidence in the potential of the Brazilian market. But what I think is actually kind of particularly notable is that all these companies, I know it's kind of a requirement for them to do this, but they've all established their Brazil-based offices. And again, it's no small feat to do that. And that, again, it signals their intent for long-term involvement within this market.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, international players have a bit more of work to do when it comes to operating in Brazil, because they need to have an office. They need to hire Brazilian people to work for them. They need to have a partner that holds 20% of the capital share of the company as well. So, a Brazilian partner. So they have, I would say, a longer road to establish their offices in Brazil and to be able to operate in Brazil. But it's nice to see that they still want to come. They still want to come. And we saw last week actually, Globo, which is the biggest TV channel in Brazil, just partnered up with BetMGM Group to actually MGM Resorts to be able to provide this service in Brazil. Globo already owns Cartola, which is like a betting operator, let's say, like that here in Brazil. It works a bit different, but it's still related to football and bets. And so we see the giant of the TV channels joining forces with a giant in the United States. So it will be interesting to see that happening in Brazil with this foreign companies coming, which can be a bit of a problem for smaller operators, but it's interesting.
Yeah, and there was also kind of eyebrows raised over the amount of tax that was initially introduced. I believe we landed on 15%. I believe it initially was 30% or something along those lines. I'm going to keep going back to you just for confirmation that it was around 30, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was 30% that the Congress decided for tax on winnings for the players. But fortunately, they managed to reduce by half. So now we have 15% on tax, but there's something that when Lula signed the law 14790 last year, he vetoed the part that said that players who earn up to 2,824, if I'm not mistaken, that is the tax exemption that we have here in Brazil, they wouldn't need to pay 15% if they win up to this amount, 2,824. But Lula vetoed it, so actually every single player will have to pay tax, 15% tax on every single winning, which is a bit concerning for some associations in Brazil. They are not... Actually, this is the most concerning thing, I believe, right now, like from the law, not from the law ordinances, but from this law that Lula signed, because this could increase the parallel market. Because if you win so little and you have to pay 15% on top of it, this might lead players to the illegal, the black market, the illegal gambling, because illegal platforms don't have to pay taxes, don't have to pay anything, and the player wouldn't have to declare the amount that he earned, not even will have to pay. So, but I believe that with all the law ordinances that we have in place and all the ice that we have right now in Brazil, it will be hard, very hard to operate illegally here. At least in the beginning, I really think it will be hard.
Yeah, I'm aware the National Association of Games and Lotteries have been quite voicing their objections to these quite high tax rates. But as we've seen from the amount of applications that have come through, the 113, these companies, they don't seem undeterred by this. Like it suggests to us that actually entering the Brazilian regulated market, the potential rewards for it far outweigh kind of the risks from the eyes of these operators. But Isa, I do need to ask you, because these are huge numbers, and the sheer volume of applications from the original projection of 40. This is an unforeseen challenge for the Brazilian operators. Do you believe that they'll actually be able to review each of these submissions in time, not only for kind of the current deadline of, I believe it's mid-November this year, to approve or reject these applications, but even for the projected market opening of January the 1st, 2025? Can they get through all of these?
Honestly, I don't think so. Especially because they were predicting to receive 40 applications from 40 companies. I don't see them... I personally, I believe that we have two ways of doing that. If they managed to review every single application the way that they're supposed to, they won't be able to have them that done by the end of the year. But if they do actually review all the 113 companies that applied and managed to say, okay, this one is approved, this one is not, I don't think they did what they had to do in order to check every single requirement, because it's a lot of information. It's a lot of requirements. It's not just like, I'll send you some documents and that's it. It's not how it goes. We have 12 law ordinances, another one coming out. We have the law 14790, and one of the law ordinances, actually the law ordinance number 827, stated that the companies, once they submit their documents, because right now they're just applying, but they will have to submit a lot of documents as well. Of course, some of the companies that applied earlier are already sending documents and everything. But let's take this from August 20th. That was the deadline for the companies to apply to obtain a license this year.
Let me pitch a scenario to you, because this is where I think this is a hypothetical situation that I think might become a reality. We know when operators submitted for a license. So one of the possibilities that I could foresee happening is approving on a kind of a first come first served basis, or maybe depending on the size of the company, and the market may open with a limited number of operators approved, and then they'll attempt to then go through the latter submissions. I think that could be a hypothetical, but it does raise questions over kind of the future dynamics of the market with kind of an earlier access advantage, because you could then see some operators kind of dominate it, kind of become the major player in Brazil because they've had more time to settle themselves in the market, while the latter end of the submissions, shall we say, kind of run through. Again, this is a hypothetical situation. This is not something that's been confirmed by Brazilian regulators.
But I think that's possible, especially because this law ordinance that sets all the rules for operators to be able to operate in Brazil says that after they receive the documents, they will the SPA, the Secretariat of Prices and Bettings of the Minister of Finance, will have 150 days to review all the applications. So, each application, obviously. But we ended the deadline on 20th August, 2 days ago. And 150 days is 4 months. And 4 months will be in December. So I'm not sure if they have enough personnel or enough systems in order to be able to review 113 licenses. It's a very high number. But we also saw companies there that don't even operate yet. They're not even live. We don't know who they're going to be or what kind of website they will have. So for sure, we're not going to see 113 companies being approved, but I don't think we'll see all of them reviewed by the end of the year as well. I don't think they will have enough time.
What we do know is, Brazil is on the brink of its major transformation in the gambling sector, in the gambling industry. It's got its robust regulatory framework. We've just explained it's got a flood of eager applicants, and it has the potential to become one of the largest markets in the world. And no matter how we look at it, no matter how they deal with these applications flooding through, the future really does look bright for Brazil's gambling sector. But, as with many kind of major changes, there are challenges to overcome, and the next few months will be crucial as the regulators go through these applications to approve and reject them to prepare for that market launch in January 2025. It's going to be interesting, and I am going to be watching it with an eager eye. But for now, Isa, thank you for joining me on the podcast just to go through this today. To the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. I hope you found this discussion kind of insightful into a kind of a clearer picture of what's happening in Brazil now, because it is an ever-evolving story or situation. So please, if you want to keep up to date, follow SBC Noticias Brasil, subscribe to their newsletter, follow us on iGaming Daily, because we will be covering everything as it breaks with Isadora Marcante. But apart from that, I've been James Ross, I've been joined by Isadora Marcante, and this has been iGaming Daily. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network, or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.